So we're going to talk about SEO, search engine optimization today. But mostly we are going to review what are the evolutions, the latest evolutions from Google. Okay, it is possible for me to speak about other search engines as well, because we have many international clients. So if you have questions about Baidu, Naver, Yandex, and so on, you can ask them at the end of the presentation. But of course, we are in France, we are in Europe, and Google is overly dominant. So of course, you are all focused about what's happening with Google. And things have changed a lot lately. So of course, it's important now to understand very well what are these changes and what does it mean for your businesses, because of course most of you have businesses based on web, and you must know exactly how in the future you may or not tap directly on the traffic hose from Google. So let's introduce myself first. So I founded an agency specialized in SEO and SEA called Search Foresight in 2012. This agency, Search Foresight, is specialized in working with very big clients. I mean websites that have a large number of URLs or a large traffic, high traffic, and big ones as well. But we always work with startups as well. So we have now 24 seasoned SEO and SEA experts that work on our projects. They are very seasoned, so we have already worked, we have counted, it took a long time, about more than 1,000 projects, web projects, and optimizing them for SEO. And at this moment, we have 80 active clients. And who am I? So, well, I'm 50, so I used to have another trade than consulting about search engine optimization. But since 2000, I'm specialized now in web marketing, and I have now 13 years of experience doing SEO. I used to be the deputy general manager of Apposition, an agency which is known under the name of iProspect now, because it has been bought by Isobar and Aegis Dentsu. And then I moved to London to work in-house for two different websites. First of all, Viva Street, and then Twenga. And I founded this agency back to France in 2012. Okay, so let's talk about the changes about Google. Google was launched in 1998. So that's exactly the date where I decided to begin working about websites and doing websites for myself. In the first years of existence of Google, the search engine didn't change a lot. So from 1998 to 2007, you can't find a major change in the algorithm. So it stayed mostly as it is. And the first big change was the introduction of universal search in 2007. What we call universal search is the integration of information in the normal result page of coming from all the vertical search engines that Google had created during the years, meaning Google Video, Google News, Google Images, and so on. So that was a big change, because before that, the only thing that you would be able to find in a Google page was AdWords, of course. But even that, it was quite late. You weren't able to see many AdWords before 2003. You would be able to see 10 blue links, and that's all. So no images, no news, no videos, and so on. So it was a big change. But since then, the environment has changed a lot. The web has evolved in many ways. So it's true for the way you build websites now. So we are using different technologies. We are using different devices as well. And the amount of data to process is getting larger and larger. Okay. Now, if you want to download all the data that is available on the web, you need to download 8 zettabytes of information. A zettabyte, it's a huge number. It means 8 times 10 to the power of 21. So it's very difficult to conceive such a number, but it's quite large. And as a matter of course, it's quite a challenge to index all this information. And I can tell you one thing. No popular search engine at this moment is in a position to crawl more than 4% of all the web information. Only 4%. So sometimes the issue is they don't have access to the information because people don't want them to find this information. I'm talking about the dark web, for instance, the Tor network. But sometimes they can't access to this data because it's technically difficult or technically impossible for them to index this kind of content. But anyway, you know, the figures that you have here is underestimated. So we can now guess that perhaps Google knows about 100 billion pages. That's a lot. But that's very far from 8 zettabytes. Of course, the usage of mobile have changed the way we are using internet on a daily basis. So smartphones are now everywhere, okay? And you have here figures that come from the US. You can see that the usage of smartphones in the US is now prominent. It's true in France as well, but it's not as prominent as in the US. But it's true in 2016 now. People are spending more time going to internet on their smartphones than on a desktop. So it changes a lot, of course, for everybody who is building a web application, and the search engines are concerned, of course. And now, because of this change, search is the most common starting point for mobile research. It means perhaps, okay, people don't actually buy on a smartphone as often as on desktop, but usually they start looking for a product on their smartphone, and then they buy on a desktop device. It means the usage on a smartphone is going to be the most popular usage from now on. And now you have other devices as well. It means the Internet of Things is beginning to be very, very important. People access internet using watches, using wearables, using many devices that can find in a household. You know, 20 years ago, it was a joke to tell a computer guy, you would say, okay, what you are doing is computerizing a refrigerator. Okay, but now our refrigerators can be computerized. You can buy a computerized refrigerator. So Internet of Things is going to be huge. Now you have the number of connected devices that we expect for the next 10 years, and it's huge. And now we feel the urge to access real-time information everywhere. So it's true for information. So Twitter, as a matter of fact, wins the battle against Google about this kind of information. It was very, very important for Google to find a way of providing users with real-time information. They tried to do this by themselves, and they failed. Okay, now they have an agreement with Twitter to access their data, to be able to index them and show them to users. And this agreement explains why you have so many results that are incoming from Twitter on Google results pages. And of course, it's a good way for Google to display that. Google has tried several times to buy Twitter. They never succeeded. So now they have this agreement. And it's very important for them to access this kind of information because it's, at this moment, perhaps the only reliable way of getting this information on the net. Okay, so all the environment has changed since 2007. What was the answer from Google? What did they do? So they tried to adapt themselves.
When we were trying to name Google, we actually went through thousands of names.
The name of the company has now become its own verb in the dictionary.
Let's Google it.
You can Google it.
Work the Google on the internet machine.
6 simple letters on a plain white page.
Being able to do searches in any language about any country.
When you're putting in a question, they'd finish your question for you.
We have been working on organizing the world's information.
Our goal is to digitize all the books.
Today, Google announced Gmail. Email for everyone for free.
Google is mapping the entire world to make it more accessible to people everywhere.
Google is jumping into the mobile market.
Android was built as an open platform for everyone to use and build on.
This is Chrome. It's a faster, safer browser for the open web.
Google is unveiling what they call the knowledge graph.
We needed to understand the world the way you and I do, as objects and relationships between objects.
Today, Google got another useful feature with Google Now.
We are providing you with answers before you've even asked for them.
One of my favorite cards is the one that shows traffic data for your commute to and from work.
Think about how far Google has evolved from the 10 blue links.
We asked ourselves, how can we assist you right when you need it?
Okay, Google, call the Walker Arts Center.
It's not just desktops, phones, and laptops anymore.
Okay, Google. 유진이한테 5분 늦는다고 문자 보내줘.
It's watches with displays, car consoles with displays.
Okay, Google. Let's go to the aquarium.
How can we help you get things done in as few steps as possible?
Okay, Google.
Okay, Google. Okay, Google. Show me my photos of Lucas with the pumpkin.
But we have to remember, we have a long way to go.
This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so this short video from Google sums up all the evolutions since the beginning of Google and to now. And of course, it means search engine optimization has to change as well. So in the past, SEO was about optimizing landing pages on popular keywords. That was very central in all the strategy deployed by SEOs to gain traffic from search engines. So people spent a lot of time figuring out which keywords were the more popular and to optimize their pages for search engines as well, and including, of course, these keywords inside the text copy. If you have detected that auto repair is a strategic keyword for you, and that auto repair is going to provide you with good traffic, converting traffic, and a high volume of queries. So you wanted to add this keyword into different parts of the page, different locations, like the title tag, for instance, the URL. So to add several occurrences of this term inside the body text and the alt tag for images. Okay, so there are other optimization possible on a page, but it was the way we were doing SEO, the only way we were doing SEO a few years ago. Well, it still works. It still works now, but the algorithm has changed so in a so drastic way that at this moment it begins to work less than before. So we have to change our strategy and to change our point of view. And these changes, you must understand them. So we are going to go into the details. Google is getting less and less stupid because before, the way you were using a search engine was not a very smart way of using this kind of system. So in the past, the page worked like this: 10 blue links providing you with a list of pages that may or may not include the information you were looking for. So everybody in this room has learned to ask a question in a very bizarre way, meaning typing keywords in an input box and then hoping that you are going to find the answer inside the pages. But you were obliged to click on the pages, read the page, and hopefully you will find information inside the page. Sometimes it was not the case. In 2007, I remember doing a conference and explaining this kind of behavior. And the question that we tried was, what is the currency for Burkina Faso? And what we were returned in the search engine results page were only pages that were mentioning the question, but not including anything about an answer to this question. So that it is a very, very strange way to finding information, just to try to find a page that includes the information. Of course, after a while, Google decided that it would be better to provide the information you want directly. Okay. So let's take a very emblematic question. What's the answer for life, the universe, and everything? Okay, 42 on the right. Of course, it's something that is quoted from Douglas Adams' book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The answer is 42. So Google's want to provide you with this kind of answer, 42. Because if you understand the question, you will be able to understand that it's about this book and that it is not a difficult question because the answer is quite easy to provide. Okay, and Google decided to do this. This is what we called a featured snippet. It means a specific way of displaying a result, providing a direct answer to a question you ask to the search engine. Okay, so you can try this on Google. What's the answer to life, the universe, and everything? And the answer is 42. Okay, so in a more generic way, Google has included a new feature called the knowledge graph. What is the knowledge graph? It's a huge database of facts, of relationships between facts, of all kind of information that they can use to give direct answers to questions that people don't ask to the search engine. So they did that using a free base of information, called Freebase, by the way. And it contains a lot of information. 500 million entities, 3.5 billion facts, and 35,000 different types of relationships between the facts. Well, that's a lot, but it's a very tiny percentage of all the questions that people might ask to a search engine that are included in this huge database. So Google wants to do more, and at this moment they are working on a very huge project called the Knowledge Vault. So the Knowledge Vault, it's a program, it's a scheme to crawl all the web, find information in web pages, extract facts, extract information, check them, because of course they want these facts to be true facts, and add them automatically to this huge database called the Knowledge Vault. And they want to, of course, extend the number of questions they are in a position to answer using the knowledge graph display. And it means Google had to make very huge progress in a new field of study called information extraction. Okay. Usually, when we talk about the field of study to make search engines, it's called information retrieval. Information extraction, it's all the science that you need to find information inside web content. It means different fields of specific approaches, like name entity recognition, co-reference identification. Well, that's we are going to see a good example in a while. Relationships extraction, extraction of data about events, like dates and so on, and extraction of terminologies. But the most important feature, the most important approach for a search engine is, of course, name entity recognition. Well, it's a barbaric word to describe something that is quite useful, because many terms that we use in real life are names that we give to real life objects. Okay, the person next to you has a name. The place where we are, it has a name. The company you belong to, it has a name, and so on and so on. Okay, so these are what we call named entities. And what search engines want to do is to recognize a named entity and associate with this named entity, which is a group of letters at first sight. This group of characters, you need to associate them with a category, and even after that, with not only a category, but with a real life object that is behind it. So in this case, it means the system looks at the text and recognizes Apple as a company, but as the company Apple. It is not something that you can eat. It's a company. Tim Cook is a person, and he's the chairman of Apple, and so on and so on. So this is named entity recognition. And once you have done that, you can label any entity that you can find in a text, and you can do very, very smart things using that. And of course, when you want to retrieve a specific information, and you could recognize that the information you must retrieve is linked, is related to a named entity, it helps you in doing something that is relevant. So it gives possibilities like this. If you type the query IXCube in Google, Google knows that IXCube actually is referring to a named entity. And this named entity, it's not a cube of ice, it's a wrapper. And on the top of it, Google can guess that when you type IceCube without any other term in the query, you are actually only looking information about the wrapper. It is quite unlikely that you are looking for information on something else. So Google is providing you with a lot of results that are related to the wrapper IceCube, and that's all. And you need to go to the third page, fourth page, and so on, to begin to find something about ice and cubes. So you have this behavior hidden in Google everywhere. So perhaps half of the queries that you type on a daily basis are triggering this kind of behavior. Okay, so first step. Now, how can I rank first on an answer search engine? Because an answer search engine is the name that we give to a search engine that is willing to give you answers and not only 10 blue links. So Google is becoming more and more an answer search engine. So how can you rank first on this kind of a search engine? Well, of course, usually it's Google that is occupying the more prominent location on the page. Okay, and once Google has provided the information, there is nothing like a second position, because of course Google has provided the information, so what? Will you receive a click from the Google page? Of course not. Okay, so what's left for you are all the cases where Google is wrong. Well, it happens a lot. Where Google is not very specific, so it doesn't provide you with specific information. So you want, in that case, to be here, to be able to answer to more middle tail, long tail queries, more specific questions. So it means if you want to build a business model on selling information, providing information on the web, and if you are depending on Google to have traffic, it means, okay, don't believe that you are going to be able to be visible on very generic queries. That's the end of it. But it's still the case on many long tail, middle tail queries. Okay. Another new behavior that is made possible by this kind of device. It's conversational search. So this is quite impressive. I don't know if you have tested it yet. You will have this kind of behavior. How old is Barack Obama? Okay, you can ask this question to your smartphone, and Google will provide you with one answer only. Okay, they are going to display the 10 blue links as well, but perhaps you are not looking at your screen when you are using voice search. The second question might be, how tall is he? You can do that. In that case, Google understands that the he is referring to Barack Obama because it keeps in its memory the queries that you've made before. And that was a problem that was famed to be very difficult to resolve 10 years ago, as far as linguistic scientists were telling us. It was very difficult to do. And you can go on. Who is his wife? His wife is Michelle Obama. And how old is she? Okay, so now it's possible with Google Voice Search to ask information to your smartphone exactly as you do with your neighbor when you want to have information about directions, for instance. So it means conversational search is going to be something that people are going to use more and more in the next few years. And it changes a lot, of course, because it means search engines can understand the context of a question and be more relevant in the way they answer. Okay. So now we have this new feature, conversational search. How can be first on this kind of search engine? Well, in that case, it's beginning to be very tricky. Because, of course, Google wants to provide an information in a very short way. So it means one answer, and the most relevant one, of course, but it means if you are not the answer that is chosen by Google, is done. That's it. Okay, so you have to hope in that case that, as it happened, Google is not able to understand the question because it's a difficult exercise. In that case, you will have 10 blue links because it's impossible for Google to get rid of all what is ambiguous in your query. Okay, even better. Now we have predictive search on our smartphones. That's how Google Now works. This kind of search means Google wants to push information before you ask for it. So the usual way to see that is in the context of a flight, for instance. You have booked a flight, and okay, so Google is going to push you a card, a block of information about the flight, about how to get to the airport, how time you will need to go there, do you have a problem on the itinerary, and so on. So that's how it works now. So Google is providing information to you before you even ask for it. Okay. In that case, is it possible to get traffic from this kind of feature? Yes, it's possible. But you have to provide the usual information that is going to be needed by Google Now in that case. So it means to open all your apps, to open all your web data in order for Android apps from Google to index the right information and provide them to users. Okay, so but it works. So now it's open to other apps than Google wants, and you can access this kind of information from other apps very easily. Okay, more abstract and very, very important. Now you have concept indexing inside search engines. What is that? Well, as we have seen now, with voice search, people are asking questions in natural language. And it changes a lot because people stopped, when they use that, stopped entering keywords in an input box. They ask a question in natural language. And you have many ways of asking exactly the same information. You can find thousands of ways of asking a question. And there is, for this kind of question, only one type of answer. Okay, so a question usually calls for a concept, not a page. Okay? So let's take an example. Imagine that you want to order a pizza. Okay, imagine that you want to order a pizza using voice search. Then the question will be, where can I find the best pizza around Bastille area? And what is the concept behind this? Is it pizza? Well, actually, no. your question is calling for another concept, which is a pizzeria, a restaurant that cook and sell pizzas. And so since September 2013, Google has changed its infrastructure to be able to index not only pages, but to annotate pages and the concepts that they present, to be able to answer to natural search questions. And of course, it means it's possible now to have relevant answers with this kind of question. So you can try this. If you ask your phone for a place where you can find a good pizza, the system will understand that actually the type of answers that you want is something about pizzerias. And that changes the way to retrieve information. Well, again, what does it change for SEO? Here it begins to change a lot, because it means to rank well on a specific query, you need to be a good answer to a question. And the fact that your page includes the right keywords or not is less important than before. Your page should be the right answer to a specific question. Okay, so you have another way now to rank well in Google. And you, in some cases, you don't need actually to optimize your content for a specific keyword. That's something that is quite new. Okay, how do they do this? Okay, so they introduced a lot of systems that are using results from statistics, linguistics, and so on. But during the period of time that we mentioned, from 2006-07 to now, they introduced a lot of artificial intelligence in the system. So they were quite conservative about it at the beginning. Now they are doing it on a large scale. So we find artificial intelligence in their way of processing natural language, in web mining and information extraction. So the knowledge vault, of course, is relying on a layer of artificial intelligence as well, in personal assistance, in image and facial recognition, and in web spam identification. Don't be misled. Artificial intelligence, in that case, doesn't mean that Google has added human intelligence in the system. We are talking about very specific fields of study, like a way to mimic how human perception is working, or a way to mimic machine learning, the way humans learn things. But Google now is very serious about artificial intelligence. And since the beginning of last year, there is artificial intelligence embedded in its core algorithm. And just as a proof that Google is beginning to be very serious about it, now you have as a head for the team that is actually building the search engine algorithm, somebody which used to be the chief of machine learning at Google. And this guy has replaced Amit Singhal, who was a kind of symbol of the old way of working for Google. Okay. So now the algorithm is in the hands of somebody who is a specialist, who is a very good scientist about machine learning. Okay, the first thing that Google did with machine learning was to build better spam filters. Okay, they wanted to build something that is able to classify pages into two categories. This is spam, and this is not spam. Well, it looks easy to do if you are a human. Okay, you look at a page, and you can tell if it's spam or not spam. When you want to give this kind of task to a machine, it begins to be a little tricky. So you can find cases where it's quite clear that it is spam, some cases where it's quite clear that it is not spam, but there is a gray area between these two cases, which is quite huge for a machine. In that case, you need to ask a human to make the final decision. So Google used to do this using humans during the 10 first years of its existence. And of course, it's not scalable. And for Google, it was a scandal. Google always wants to build something that is scalable because they want to have an algorithm that works for every language in the universe, every country, every context, every vertical. Okay. So they found that actually some new ways of doing machine learning can be very helpful to do this kind of stuff. So they decided to introduce support vector machines to see if it's possible to mimic how a human makes this kind of decision, what is spam and what is not spam. And it worked. So it's a way of transforming something that is quite difficult for a machine in a simple problem. Actually, it's a trick of geometry in many dimensions. Okay, so the idea is to find a hyperplane that will separate very clearly what is spam and what is not spam. And there is a program that is actually computing the function that is making this kind of choice. And it has produced two very well-known filters for webmasters now, Panda and Penguin. Panda is a filter that demotes all the websites that have a content that is not of good quality, that is shallow, that doesn't have added value for the users. Okay. So of course, we are not dealing with websites that actually break rules, break guidelines provided by Google. Okay, people can do this kind of websites just playing by the book. So it's difficult to detect this kind of content spam. And Panda was invented to address this kind of issue. And Penguin, it's another kind of filter that is addressing very smart ways of manipulating Google algorithm. Because you can manipulate the algorithm. You can fool Google algorithm to make your site rank well in the search engine. We have what we call black hat techniques. Okay, so that's exactly what the kind of techniques that Google doesn't want you to use. And this kind of stuff is designed, invented to get rid of this behavior. So Penguin is just a filter to get rid of smart ways of manipulating Google. Okay, how do we know this? Actually, sometimes there are very communicative people from Google who leak information. In that case, that was Amit Singhal, the head of the search algorithm, who provided information to Wired, the American newspaper. And the way they described the Panda filter was looking very, very closely to how people usually describe support vector machines and their way of dealing with classifications. Okay, what does it change? It means now Google is getting better and better at identifying what is spam. So manipulating off-page criteria, like manipulating links to have more page rank and to make Google feel that your website is more important than it is in real life. of course it works, but now Google has ways of detecting all the unnatural links that you can create in order to achieve this kind of results. So as a result now, inbound marketing is the only safe way to build up link juice and to build up the signal of importance that you can send to Google to achieve good rankings on very competitive keywords. It means sophisticated SEO schemes or gray methods are now potentially discovered very easily by this kind of spam filters. And that black hat methods, okay, they still work, but they are now very, very risky. If you want to build a business model, and you need to tap the traffic from search engines, then it means if you use this kind of techniques, it's not sustainable. At some stage, there is a high risk that your website will be penalized or that you won't be able to rank anymore on the queries that were bringing you traffic. Okay, that is the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence in web spam approaches. But now Google wants to integrate machine learning in its core algorithm as well. So how can you do this? So a few months ago, guys from Moz.com published an article where they were explaining what were their vision about this kind of integration. But actually, Google is doing something that is even smarter. To use machine learning and to use AI in a search engine is not something that is new. Actually, if you look at the Russian search engine Yandex, it's integrated inside Yandex since 2009, and they tried this approach since 2006. So there is already a very good example that is working since almost 10 years of an algorithm that is completely based on machine learning. But what Google did is to use their knowledge about neural networks to build a new smart feature in the search algorithm. Okay, so the classical approach of neural networks are actually something that people are abandoning at this time, like things like perceptrons, because it is not that efficient. But since 2005-2006, people have invented new ways of dealing with the problems that were dealt before with perceptrons, and it has launched a new field of study called deep learning. And deep learning is a way of using neural networks in several layers. Each layer is transforming the problem into something that is more abstract at each stage. And in the end, you have a better result. And so people from Google are now very good at this kind of stuff. So many breakthroughs that were made about deep learning were made by engineers and scientists from Google. For instance, they launched in 2012 Google Brain. Google Brain is based on a neural network and deep learning, and it's a way of approaching the issue of image recognition in a new way, and it works very well. So everybody was quite surprised to see the results. So if you look at the face, the gray face on the top, this kind of image was quite impossible to recognize for a computer before. Even for a human, it's not that easy. Now, for deep brain, it's quite clear, it's a face. And the image at the bottom is a cat. Okay, so this is the kind of images that now deep brain can recognize with a 100% accuracy, which is quite impressive. And they have launched another project called DeepMind. Okay, so DeepMind has beaten chess players quite easily first, okay. But now they can beat Go players as well. And a few weeks ago, their program have beaten the Go European champion. Okay, so you can apply the same approach to text and try to find information hidden into the text to find structure. So they do exactly the same approach using neural networks, using deep learning on text. And it's a new paradigm called words embedding. And in the end, you can show how words are close to other words on this kind of diagrams. So it's possible to identify coordinates for words in any language just by doing statistics analysis on words inside text. And once you have this kind of result, you can reuse them in your search engine. So Google decided last year to introduce a new feature in their search algorithm completely based on this. And this was done by Greg Corrado, which is a specialist from Google. And this new feature is called RankBrain. Okay, so RankBrain is a way of dealing with the semantic aspect of queries using artificial intelligence. So what they do is, as the system can compute coordinates for the words, they can compute a vector of coordinates for a sentence as well. And a query is a sentence, and of course you can find sentences in documents. And then this feature is used twice in Google Algo. First use is to make query expansion. So this is something that search engine, including your internal search engines, are doing a lot. It means if you want to retrieve all the relevant documents called by a query, then you need, of course, to use all the different terms that are related to this query, because sometimes the document will not include the right term. So about this, Google has another issue. Perhaps you have noticed it, but Google wants to identify the intent behind each query. What does the user want? Does he want fresh information? Is a query about news? Does he want geolocalized information? Is a query about local information? Does he want to buy a product? Or does he want information about the product? And Google will display a very different kind of page for each kind of query. And if you want to buy a product, you will need to display, of course, merchant websites. And if you want to have information about a product, relevant documents are going to be pages from blogs or forums or editorial website about high tech, for instance. So it's quite different. But if you want to do this, you need to understand what is the intent behind the query. And to achieve this, what Google does is to look at the historic of sessions. They need historic data for a query to understand what people are expecting with this kind of query. But people are, with voice search, for instance, they are doing more and more diverse queries. So it's getting more and more difficult to understand what the people want, what is the intent behind the query. But if you can compute that a keyword is very close to another keyword, okay, the new sentence, the new query typed by the user is something Google has never encountered. But perhaps the query made with other keywords that are already known has historic data. In that case, he is able to send back a result page that is actually a good one, optimized for this type of query that he has recognized. So this is the first use for their new system. And then, of course, they have a new way and a better way to compute similarity between a query and a document. If you want to retrieve something that is relevant, relevancy, of course, is about semantics. If you type a keyword, a relevant keyword is likely to be a keyword that is a document that is including this keyword into the copy. And now we have, with this tool, something that is even more easy to use than the old way of doing it. Or for specialists in the room, the old way of doing it is something in the family of Salton cosine. It has been in use for many, many years in many, many search engines. But it's quite complicated to compute. And this approach is more economical in many ways. OK. So does it mean that we have to say bye to the keywords paradigm? In a way, yes. It means the search engine behavior is relying less and less on keywords. But, well, the old algorithm is still there and is still prominent. So in many cases, the result page is made using the old algorithm. But you can find now more and more results inside the 10 first links that are actually pushed there by something that is the new algorithm. Okay, that is what is new for now. But then something is coming. Okay, so of course you can do much better with this kind of approach and artificial intelligence. You can go further and use augmented reality as an interface. You can search via connected objects. It's already the case. If you have a connected watch, you can talk to your watch and ask your watch information. You can do that with many, many connected objects. Of course, what is going to be revolutionary is the use of personal assistants as well. And in personal assistants like Siri, like Google Now, like Hound, like M from Facebook, like the old, we don't know how is going to be named the new personal assistant from Yahoo, just to be called Donna. So we don't. So every people from Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and so on, they are working on something that is looking like a personal assistant. So this is going to be the next big stuff. And of course, how do you interact with the personal assistants when you search information, you use voice search and conversational search. And the next move will be this summer to have conversational shopping search. So the ability not to ask your smartphone for information, but to be able to search for a product and buy a product using voice. So that's the next move. You can tag images automatically, add face recognition to images and name entities recognition associated with images. We already have apps from Google that recognize monuments, so it's not something that is so far away. And of course, we can understand all the texts that are hidden in images. Okay, so yes, we can have character recognition on steroids, and we already have applications from front party that can do this. Information is hidden in videos as well. So Google is experimenting a lot of stuff about this. So they try to index information in the voice, in the spoken content inside videos. Okay. So what conclusions can be drawn for a startup at this stage? Okay, so the schema at the end is quite interesting to understand. This is the state of Google algorithm. The old algorithm, the first layer, is always managing a lot of stuff. Okay, so most of the results that you can find in the search engine result pages at this moment are made using the old approach. So it means the usual ways of optimizing a website is still working. The only issue is we have more and more difficulties to make it work as well as before. So we can already see the limits with this approach. We have a second layer which is quite present that uses query intent recognition, and that uses fact entities and relations indexing and retrieving. Okay, so that's already there. Can you use this to improve your website? Of course, as well. You can do exactly the same for your website that Google does in their search engine. On the top of it, layer 3, we have concept indexing and concept-based retrieval. So it means it makes sense now to create a page because it's a good answer for specific questions, for specific needs expressed by users. In that case, you don't have always to think about what kind of keywords you are going to include in them. It's not necessary, it's not totally necessary anymore. And the last layer is the artificial intelligence layer, which is not prominent at this moment, but people from Google are very, very satisfied with the results they achieved with RankBrain. And I think actually they are really thinking of replacing the old algorithm with something that is quite better and completely based on machine learning. It's perhaps not for tomorrow morning, because it can have many consequences for Google's own business model. Because I have to remind you of something. Google business model relies on selling AdWords. And how do you set an AdWord campaign? You decide on which keywords your ads are going to be displayed. So all their business model, their ad model is based on keywords. So you can be sure that the keyword aspect of things is not going to be, disappear in a night tomorrow. But of course, they have competitors. Of course, apps and personal assistants might change a lot their environment in the next few years. So they are already thinking of doing something that is smarter, and it's the way things should evolve in the next few years. So, of course, it means that if you want to gain traffic from such engines, in the future it's going to be more difficult to achieve this kind of objective. So Google wants to keep more and more traffic for himself. So don't count too much on tapping into organic traffic firehose to get visits in the future. You need to diversify your channels. Google is good at innovation, but as far as search is concerned, they are very conservative. Okay, when they saw Yandex doing their stuff with MatrixNet, they didn't rush into it, and they were, in my opinion, completely in a position to achieve exactly the same thing at the same moment, but they didn't do it. They have waited to reach a stage where they would be able to do something that is better. So they are very conservative about this. So it means if you want to continue optimizing your website using all methods, it's still going to work in the next 12 months. But be aware, be just aware that perhaps you will have to change your methods in the next 2 or 3 years. Okay. Thank you a lot.
Sorry. Thanks for the very, very, very interesting talk. Was a question about one of the possible Google next move. Do you know if they consider taking the lesson from robotics, autonomics, kind of another field of artificial intelligence that is more focused on the symbolic side than the just big data and machine learning? Do you know if they are starting to work on this or not yet?
Well, you know, the Google group has been completely revamped, and now there is a holding called Alphabet, and they have decided that robotics and this kind of applications are going to be managed by another company. So yes, they are working on it, but inside Alphabet, and now Google is working. What we call Google is only a search engine, and all the products that are web-based, and it's quite clear that they don't want to mix applications from very different towards different verticals.
So thank you for your talk. I just wanted to know what are the sources that you're using to get all this information?
Good question. You have 4 kind of sources that you can use to have information about what Google does. First of all, they have public communications about this. Then you can find many scientific papers in a very specific area of Google called Google Research. And you can find all the papers that have been published by scientists from Google Labs. And it's a very, very interesting source of information. Okay, it takes a long time to look at this, but it's a way you can understand how the state of art is evolving. So it's something that I do on a regular basis to understand what is going to be the next move. Then you have patents, of course. Patents show how you can actually use in a practical way things that have been invented by Google scientists. But don't think that all the patents are actually in use. Very often you have several patents published about the same idea, and only one is actually in use, and sometimes no one at all. But it's interesting to see similarities between an old patent and something that you have actually now on Google. Sometimes it gives you information about the way they do it and what kind of difficulties that they have perhaps encountered in doing this. And of course, you have to experiment some stuff as well to be sure that you are guessing exactly what is Google doing behind a new feature. So you have more official information that people can think. They provide more and more information, patents, scientific papers, and experiments.
Hi, I was wondering if you could give us some insights about concept-based content. How do we go about creating that in our websites?
Okay, well, it's quite a very good example is when you want to build a merchant website. People usually now want to add text copy on listing pages, for instance, because they want their listing pages to rank well on all the keywords that can be found on the page. And sometimes you don't have all the keywords that people are actually querying present on the page. So you add text copy on listing pages. But if you are dealing with a concept search engine, if the question is about buying a product, what the system is wanted to provide is an answer which is a very clear product page, a listing of products. And if you make the system believe that actually it's not a list of products but something else, like an information page, a guide, something like that, then you're wrong. So it means some old ways of optimizing stuff are going to be a little awkward in this kind of context. But it's a good example. In that case, it's better to keep the merchant page as it is, because it's clear for the system that it is a product page, a list of product, a universe page, but something that is from a merchant website, than to try to add something that will perhaps mislead the system and believe that actually it's not a merchant website, but a comparison, price comparison website or something like that.
I mean, if I got it right, the future of search is your website has to answer a question. Okay. So what about websites that, due to the nature of the content, they answer difficult questions, and even there's a question that is difficult to recognize. So I will have the impression that these kind of websites are going to be like lost in the deep web. Google is not going to reference these kind of pages, or what will happen with these pages that are difficult to understand for these future algorithms?
Well, actually, it's perhaps the opposite. If you look back at what Google was doing 10 years ago, it was not very good at retrieving all the web pages that were actually interesting on a specific query. With more intelligence, with more smart algorithm, perhaps he's going to be able to find this kind of page better than before. And as people are using natural language question now, sometimes they trigger a new result page that is more likely to include your very complicated content. So I'm not sure it's a bad move in this direction. On the contrary, I'm quite sure that it's going to improve this kind of old issue with search engines. But yes, in a generic way, Google is quite bad at retrieving all the information, and it is choosing a very short list of websites and pages that they display to users. And it's something that is quite, it's a problem, of course. It's the reason why Google has so many issues with the FCC, the European Commission, and so on, because they have a very prominent role in the way they drive traffic to websites. And they drive traffic more and more to a very small subset of pages and websites.
Thank you.
I have a practical question. How can I investigate my competitor's website using screaming device or programs like, I think it's Screaming Frog, to know how do they handle the SEO?
Okay, so yes, Screaming Frog is a very interesting tool to use because it's a crawler, so it's going to download every single URL of your competitor website, exactly as Google will do. And it will collect a lot of information about all the elements that we usually optimize for SEO, like what kind of titles they use for a page, what is the description, what is the URL, what is the kind of race code that we received for each URL. So, and yes, you can do this, of course, and see how well they are optimized. But if you want to understand your competitors, you need to use other tools as well, because, of course, everything happens in the search engine result page. And Screaming Frog is only a tool to understand how Google can explore your URLs. It does very less information about why a specific URL is able to rank well on a specific query. Yeah, very quickly, you have 4 types of SEO tools. You have tools that give you information about backlinks, all the links that point to a website. It is very important, of course, because Google's algorithm relies on information about the importance of web pages. So you have 2 very popular tools, Majestic SEO and Ahref. Okay, and perhaps a third one if you have issues with your backlinks, which is Link Research Tool, which is quite useful when you have a warning from Google about unnatural links. It helps you in finding out which links are seen as unnatural and which links are mostly natural. Okay, then you have tools to follow your rankings. Okay, so there are many of them. Advanced Web Ranking, Agent Web Ranking, UDA, and so on and so on. So Web Position, Gold, okay. So you have dozens of them. At this moment, they are not that useful because your rankings are depending on contextual information like personalization, geolocalization, the time of day you ask a query, and so on. So it's completely useless, and it has no sense to look at a specific ranking. It moves a lot. So actually, what we do now is to look at the information provided by Google itself in the Google Search Console. And if you have to use a tool on a daily basis, this is the one you should use, because it's an account that webmasters that own the website can access, provided by Google, which gives you a lot of insights, information about the errors that Google encounters while they are exploring your website, while they are trying to index your content, and while they are trying to display your content. So all the errors that are useful to spot are now mentioned in the Search Console. So it's a wonderful tool. And you have this kind of tool in Yandex, in Bing as well, and so on. So the Search Console, the webmaster tools in other search engines, is a very, very important tool to use. Okay, then you have tools that provide you information about visibility. These are tools made about a subset of queries that they are when they are interrogating search engines on a regular basis. You have SEMrush, you have Search Metrics, you have Yoda as well. And it's interesting because you can have many information about your competitors very easily with this. So it's very interesting to have access to at least one of these tools. And of course a crawler like a screaming frog. But if you are a beginner about SEO, Search Console is something you should look at every day, because everything that is reported in the Search Console is important for SEO. If you see an error, it needs fixing. If you see an information that Google is displaying to you, it's because it's important for your SEO. So Search Console is something that you should absolutely look at. Thanks.